So yeah, let's talk about the ladies and the last couple weeks, especially as relates to our favorite mustachioed cowman. So one of the things that, and I think we need to give a shout out, especially to Brandon Thurston and WrestleNomics, because as two girls who love data,
and I've rated his spreadsheets this week.
Rated his spreadsheets, like absolutely adore data, absolutely love this man, provides us with this data every week, and does it in a wonderful fashion. So one of the things that happened last week on Collision was the ratings were down. There was a playoff football game. There was a bunch of competition. Expected ratings were down. They did like a 0.10 in the 18 to 49 demo. So all the demos, what Brandon Thurston does is he keeps a rolling, if you don't subscribe to him, and we can't recommend it highly enough, but he keeps a rolling 4-week average of whatever the breakdown in the demo is. So he's not comparing week to week. He's comparing it to the 4-week rolling average, which analytically makes a lot of sense. It takes out some of the noise of spikes of something weird. So because of the way that the data was set up this week for that Collision, the demos were across the board down, right? And you could see the variance. He had it like laid out, negative 25%, negative 40%, all the way down the list until you got to women 35 to 49. And that number was plus 48.
Over the last 4-week average, yeah.
Over the last 4-week average, plus 48, okay? Like, it's one of those things where it's just freaking so obvious. And the Dynamite number was also up, although not quite as aggressively, because obviously Dynamite in general has a lot more female viewers than Collision does. We've talked about that repeatedly. Women have fled Collision. Women 35 to 49 were interested in Collision when it started. They really tried. They came back a few times. And then starting in like October-ish, they were like, see you later, the show is not for us. And there was a little bit more interest in the Connie, but like as opposed to other demos, women 18 to 35 and 35 to 49 just have not come back to Collision, except for the last couple weeks. And last week especially, women 35 to 49, like that number frippin' jumped, right? And one of the things you brought up, Trish, that I think is fascinating is that, and we had talked about this at one point, that the predictable demos for women, the older women were more into Jon Moxley and the younger women were more into Hangman, and that's kind of aged up. Hangman's demos gotten older.
So we've always made the joke, right, that he appears on a show and you watch the women's demo go up and everyone looks at you and you're like, well, what do you think's happening?
Duh.
But I like data, so I always like to base things in numbers. So here's the difference. So if you look at the last 11 times the Paige was in an advertised match on TV, right? So in the female audience for them episodes has been 9.6% up on the previous week and 3% up on the previous 4 weeks. When you split that down, it's it was quite dramatic. So female 18 to 34 was up on the previous week each time by 18.10% on average. And the previous 4 week was 2%. And the reason there's quite a lot of differentiation with that is some of these ones have followed really big episodes. So, for example, he had a contract signing with Swerve the week after Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So you're going to get some natural deviation. But the idea is to give yourself enough of a kind of a sample size that you can see the difference. But then, 35 to 49, previous week average over the last 11 appearances, 5.2%, previous 4 week, 7%. But the thing that's happened in the last 4 weeks, so ever since the Swerve stuff, right, this story has captivated the story part of the audience. And we know full well from looking at Max and Cole that women 35 to 49 were the most invested in that storyline.
Yes.
They carried the numbers. They carried that increase in numbers and how well that performed over the summer.
And it did perform well. And that's the thing. And we want to understate this, right? Because the stuff with Max and the Better Than You Bebe stuff, that ended badly. And post-September, I don't think any of us were particularly enjoying it. But I think it's important to remember and not to retroactively like create a narrative. That shit was hot over the summer. And the women 35 to 49, their biggest number ever for Collision, beyond the premiere of the show, beyond anything else, was for that tag match between Cole and Max and FTR. Like, that number was freaking enormous. They've never come close to that.
No. And the thing is, but when you look at the last 4 appearances of Hangman, this is where you can see the difference. This is where you can see the impact. I don't know if it's the moustache. I don't know if it's him just coming back into being a regular player. I don't know if this is just finally a conversion of his numbers. Because sometimes that's the thing. It's like you have all this time and you convert as a ratings draw in general, especially if you're a new person, especially if you're not previous from WWE, but you're finding your success in AEW. You start with 18 to 34. because they get interest, they get hyped in you. And that's where you can see some of Swerve's numbers tend to be in male 18 to 34 at the moment. Because that's your starting point. You are growing your audience, and your audience grows with you. Well, he's now been in this company for 5 years, and we're now seeing this age upwards. So if you look at the last 4 weeks, right, 18 to 49, the last 4 times he's been on TV, that episode has gone up 15.2% over the previous week and 12% over the previous 4 weeks. It's getting bigger. 18 to 34, not as great in terms of... So previous week, 15%. Previous 4 weeks, 1%. 35 to 49, and we noticed this, but it's nice to actually see something in data, right? So previous week, 16.7%. Previous 4 weeks, 24%. So 24% increase in viewers in female 35 to 49 in the last 4 times he's been advertised for a show.
And this is your canary in the coal mine demo. We've talked about this. This is your canary in the coal mine demo. Where these gals go, the rest of your people are going to follow. Like, dude, come on.
And this is, there's important things for this. So we've seen all the WBD stuff around 25 to 54.
Yep.
They're highlighting that older age group. So being big in that demo is important. There's also the big thing. People that are successful in that demo are really big. Geez, how can I talk today? I really use quite a lot in opening the show because they convert well from the Big Bang Theory audience. And it's funny because with the Big Bang Theory audience, there has been a real change in that number. But I remember seeing... So, when they did the Joe Page promo and Into Roderick Strong on the Winter is Coming show?
Yes.
And the first quarter did 1.092. Biggest first quarter in... So 1.098. God, I can't even read my own numbers. But everyone was like, oh my God, where is that number come from? And people just went, oh, it's the lead-in. Oh, it's the lead-in. Well, that lead-in was 1.157 million. The week after, it was 1.193 million, and they only did 964,000. So whether you say it's the lead-in or not, there's no question. I can look at the numbers. I look at that number there. I look at this Claudio number as well. And what you can see is he is retaining more than others in that position. And I don't think he's ever been able to do that before. I think he's been put in that position, and it tends to have been like ex-WWE guys that go in that position that do well.
Yes.
So Jericho, Moxley has always been in that position because of that. And this is the first time that he's really kicked into that. Because, on that one, he retained far more than they did the week before. And far more after. So, and this is the thing. So Big Bang Theory, the last, I count them now, 8 weeks, has been over a million viewers coming into it. And it's been between 0.2 and 0.25 in the demo.
Yeah.
So it's actually been quite consistent. And there is no relation in terms of the 35 to 49 numbers directly with the amount of the lead-in. So it's not an automatic. It's not reading in data. It's like, it's automatic. Oh, the lead-in's up. So we get this, increase in viewership and we get this increase in 35 to 49. No, the right people have to convert that. And that's a skill. And that doesn't maybe sound important, and people look at it and go, oh, the second quarter was this. Doesn't matter. If you have somebody who can convert that on a more regular basis, or you can increase the field of people that do that, it increases their value because you're adding something to the end line of that episode. It might be the difference between a 0.32 and a 0.33, but that may make a major difference going into TV negotiations. So that's his calling card, and he's a dark horse issue. I don't expect him to get the belt. I've said it enough times, but his argument for heavier placement is there. And if they are going to bring new people in and you are going to have to settle people into the structure, they can't afford to lose 24% of their women 35 to 49 audience.
No.
So he's going to have to be placed strongly.
Well, this is where, again, you and I talk a lot about this. The numbers are there, and I think that's part of the question as to why you and I are like, why aren't you using this dude more? The package, that's the full package, Jesus Christ. And I also think, realistically, from a booking standpoint, I think the most exciting thing you could do is have a 3-way at Revolution where Hangman cheats to win, right? And Swerve then, there's a double turn, and Swerve chases his ass all the way to either Double or Nothing or sometime in the summer. And I know you say you don't think it's likely, and I'm pretty confident it's not likely either, but it would be probably the most exciting thing you could do with that title. It gives you guys... You're gonna have Ospreay.
The story is hot with their loyal audience. Yeah, it's hot with, and that's you have to be careful of throwing that to one side. But the numbers are there. And I think that's the exciting thing for all three of them. And that's why, yeah, absolutely, you should look at a freeway. Is all three of their numbers in different, Swerve topped the estimates for WrestleNomics for merch sales in December.
Yep.
He's had a couple of episodes that have done well for big matches. He's, people that look for that and say, oh, Swerve should be doing this. Ratings are so much harder to get to that point.
Yeah.
And, when we've talked about ticket sales. So I don't look for that. But also, they're in this thing with this story where the characters are kind of changing their alliances and their allegiances in terms of their, heel, face, whatever. And, at some point, you have to make a certainty of that. And if you did that and you had him chase, then you would increase that investment in it. And you would probably increase people's investment in him. You have to be careful of not doing it too soon and then kind of overshadowing him with debut. So,
right.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And, people talk about the rankings with that. They say, why should Hangman be in that match when he's lost twice to Swerve? Or Swerve lost twice to John Moxley. So should Moxley be in the match?
Right.
It's a difficult one. And that's where, they talk about rankings resetting the start of the year and the records reset the start of the year as well. You have your lifetime record, but you have your year record. And they're both probably going to be 3-0 going into this year. They're playing on it a lot, though. They're playing on, the Swerve beat Hangman twice. That I'm not sure if they're not going to run something before Revolution. It's kind of, normally you'd shy away from that if you were trying to hide from it. So, I don't know. But it's an interesting time to have so many people with momentum,
It's super interesting. And it's one of those things where we talked about at the beginning when it came to Ospreay and Okada that you have to have a plan, and I think you do have to have a plan. But I think one of the things that Tony Khan has unfortunately we've seen over 5 years of booking is that once he has a plan, he's reluctant to move away from that plan, even when it's not freaking working, right? So, you would hope that the data and the support of the audience would kind of be like, hey, maybe we should stick with this stuff and run with it a little bit longer at least and, see where it takes us, right? But I think while you and I are certainly a lot more positive lately, I don't know if I have totally given up my wrestling trauma of 2023.
Yeah, look, trust always takes much more to gain back than it does to initially build. So,
but I also don't want to be greedy. No. Hangman has been in 7 matches in 2023, and in 2024, I'm going to see him 4 times or 3 times in 2 weeks. So, you know what I mean? Who, please, right? There's storylines, there's feuds, there's my fun guys are back. I can't complain that much.